Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Socratic Cinema. I'm Kasey Clark.
I'm Haleigh Phillips.
I'm Charlie Heatherly.
And my name is James Delicio.
Given the social conditions and everything that's going on in our outside world, we wanted to take on a few movies that focus more on civil rights and civil unrest and how we deal with everyday systemic and just regular like outward racism. So this week we've jumped into Just Mercy, which is a amazing movie that came out in 2019. But before we get there, we wanted to plug some very important ways that you can help. As you probably know, you can either donate or you can sign some petitions. We have a few places that you can donate here. You can donate to the Equal Justice Initiative, which is the one that's actually mentioned in the movie. You can donate to Rebuild the Block, which is helping small businesses rebuild. You can donate to the George Floyd Memorial Fund, the I Run with Ahmaud Fund, the Justice for Breonna Taylor Fund, and you can also donate to the Black TV and Film Collective. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, please consider donating. I'm sure everyone would appreciate it. We're trying our best to donate where we can. But I want to jump into the movie. Had anyone watched the movie before?
No. First time.
First
Yeah.
time.
Wow, this is rare because usually at least one of us has watched it once, but I think all of us um this is our first time watching it. So what are our initial thoughts?
Well, when I came into the movie, I was expecting very good things because Michael B. Jordan was the main actor, and I love that man to death. And I was not disappointed at all. This movie is phenomenal. It is definitely, and they say this in the movie a whole bunch of times, or at least they reference it. This is the To Kill a Mockingbird of the 21st century. Well, I guess later in the 21st century. But it's a phenomenal film that deals with some really complicated issues in ways that are both subtle and upfront. It really likes to mix its approaches. And I think that in all sectors of filmmaking, including the acting, lighting, directing, just everything, this film excels and plays into a really interesting and thoughtful and important story.
Nice. James, how did you feel?
I'm with Charlie all the way. I know ever since I first saw the trailer for this movie, it was one that I really wanted to watch. Sort of like for the reason Charlie said, it's like the To Kill a Mockingbird of our time. And that is one of my all-time favorite movies. And so I really, really wanted to see this one. I'm surprised it didn't get more coverage at the Oscars. That was surprising to me. I was expecting it to be like a big Oscar runner, but I didn't wind up getting to see it just for, whatever one reason or another. But I'm so glad that I did get to sit down and watch it. It did not disappoint at all. Like Charlie was saying, the directing, the storytelling, it was all incredible. And there were so many like subtle details and parallels that the movie was giving that really kind of struck me in a very powerful way. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie through and through.
Nice. That's amazing. I loved the movie, but Hallie, how did you feel?
I to agree. This movie exceeded all of my expectations. I mean, I had like the audacity to like not go in and write notes. And like I think in like the first 30 minutes I was like, no, I need to grab paper because there's so many like all you guys have been saying. There's so many things and not just how it makes such a powerful statement, but even just in the scenes, like the delicateness and like the intricacies of like the scenes and how everything kind of comes full circle and they don't just like throw things out there. They have statements that they want to make. And so I think this movie was amazing. I was shocked I haven't seen it before. I feel like this is a movie everyone should see because it expresses a point that we hear about a lot, but we never really know like the the deepness of it all. Like we hear about it on the news, like, oh yeah, people on death row and these experiences, but to really like have this movie relate those experiences to us on a personal level was really amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. For me, the movie just was incredibly well-rounded. It was amazingly acted. You can tell that from a lot of, like what hit me was the facial expressions too, because sometimes it's not about what you say, it's what you see, and, I feel like Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, and even, I don't know the character that played the DA, um, but Tommy the person who played Tommy Champion, like, their facial expressions were absolutely, like, amazing, and not even to get into the imagery is so, like it's amazing for a movie that has so many, like, deeply rooted, like, references to make those references that could be completely, like, passed over, to make them so blatant that you really can't ignore them. Um And I just really, really appreciate how they balanced, like, everything that was blatant and other things that were more, like, nuanced and things that you just needed to, like, really pay attention to. Like, it wasn't constantly in your face, but you were constantly paying attention, if that makes sense.
I think you're really, really onto something with the imagery point. I think this film has some very, very, very evocative moments that sort of go to hammer down that idea that the this town in the South, what's it, Monroeville, I think is the city,
Yes.
um, that it really is not a welcoming place for African Americans, right? Like it's so deeply rooted in this racism and all this nasty history behind it. And there are some scenes that I think that really hammer that point home and remind you of that. And the main one for me was when Michael B. Jordan's character Brian, I always forget his last name. It starts with an H.
Stevenson.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
I swear you're lying. I swear to do not
No,
tell
no, it's
me.
100% Stevenson.
Yeah, it's
Do
Stevenson.
not,
It
It's
is
Stevenson.
Stevenson.
What did
do
you
not
think it
tell me.
was?
Ha- something with an H. Because he's always like, call me Brian.
Well, like,
You know.
all of them have, like, 2 names. Like, my sister was
Yeah.
confused at, Jamie Foxx's character because she heard,
Oh,
like, 3 different names for him, like
Yeah.
yeah.
DJ or
Johnny
J
D.
Johnny
JD, that's what
D,
it was, yeah.
Walter,
McMillan.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
But
had to keep the names in check, but yes,
you
I
did.
Stevenson.
definitely wrote all the names down so that I'd remember.
Anyways, Brian Stevenson is driving to, I forget if he's driving to the jail or back from the jail for the first time, and he comes across like the death row prisoners working in like a field, and
Ah,
there's the police
yes.
officer on the horse. When like that's such a striking image of, because I mean it looks exactly like slaves working in a cotton field with like the overseer. That's exactly
Mhm.
what I thought of when I first saw that. Um and it's just those scenes and those connections that it kind of makes where it's like, oh, shoot, this is exactly like nothing's changed, you know? Um, it was a really powerful moment for me, and I think just a really showing example of how this movie is able to create these connections with like it's not too in your face with it, but it's definitely clear enough that you know exactly what's going on, you know?
Mhm. To
Yeah.
jump off of that, my favorite parallel within the movie was when I think he's first coming to the town and he's driving past all of the rich white houses, and you see everyone working in their yard and mowing their lawn, and it looks nice and pristine. And then when he goes to the black neighborhood, everyone is still in their front yard, but you can clearly see the way that poverty has affected all these families. And it's just such a neat little parallel that they added in there, because although it's fairly obvious on viewing that, it's a repeated shot, it's in your face. It's showing how the subtle little things in life are actually so blatantly obvious once you realize that they're there.
But you know what's
Yeah.
even better about that I know exactly what, like, parallel you're talking about because I noticed that too, but what makes that even better is when you realize that all the white families, like, they were not looking, Brian Stevenson?
Very
Yeah.
good.
They were not like none of them they weren't looking, no smiling, no waving or anything, but when you see when he's
Mhm.
driving through the black neighborhood, they all stop, smile, wave, howdy, like they're so welcoming. And it just goes to continue to hammer down that point that despite, the the advances that may have been made in civil rights at the time, African Americans are still not welcome in a lot of places in the South.
Yeah.
And like I think I'm going to be talking about this book a whole lot, so I might as well introduce it here. There's this book called Dead Man Walking by Sister Helen Prejean that is exclusively about the death penalty, which is only one of the topics addressed in this film. But in it, she is a spiritual advisor. She's a Catholic spiritual advisor who goes to death row inmates in the South, advocates for them to not receive the death penalty because she believes it's immoral, and also tries to coach them through this incredibly harrowing journey. And one of the things that I noticed in this film is it's very similar to that book. You're getting the same emotions and the same feelings. Like the scene where where the war vet, I forgot his name, is
Herb.
Herb.
Herbert.
Herb, my man Herb, when he's being taken to the chair to get electrocuted, it's almost like the same exact thing from that book. Twice we see inmates that she is advising be electrocuted and taken to the chair. And each and every time, it's still just as emotional and heartbreaking as it was the first time. And
Yeah.
I think this movie really did a great job at balancing the complex issues that it was tackling, because Prejean took an entire book to really hammer home that emotion. And I think that this movie, in just a couple scenes, managed to get a very nice parallel to the emotion that was inside of that book. It managed to go into your heart and be like, do you really think this is right? Do you think that people who are innocent or are good should be sent to death? Is
Yeah.
is an eye for an eye really the best way, or is it gonna make the entire world blind? So
That sequence of the execution on the chair, that was one of the most, like, troubling things I think I've seen in a movie, and it's not because it wasn't overtly, like it wasn't especially, like, violent or scary in the traditional sense, but it's just so, like, harrowing. It just kinda empties you out.
and
Um
they turned it down from the book. Like, the way that they actually do it is so much worse. Like, you read on the page that, they have to shave off all the hair, from the person so it doesn't catch fire. And that's like, one thing on the page is an entirely different thing to see it in real life and in that movie. But they also have to pat you down with wet sponges so the
Yeah.
currency travels faster. And then also they put a bag over your head because your eyeballs are gonna start to like melt.
Oh
So
gosh.
and so and they usually have to turn the crank multiple times.
Is
So
the
this movie, even in what it did, was toned down from the reality of it and the horror of what it actually is.
is the chair that's not still in effect, is it? I think it's like an injection now, right?
Yeah, they've switched to lethal injection, although that also has,
It's
some
not,
Like
problems.
implications.
it's not better. It's it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely raises some it really makes you take a stance on the death penalty issue one way or another, right? This movie
Mhm.
does not leave room for moderates, in that debate. Um, but yeah, like, I felt my heart pounding during that sequence. Absolutely. It was like it definitely goes down as one of the scenes where I felt the most genuine kinda emotion
Yeah.
in movies in a while.
Mhm. For sure. What did we think of the acting with Michael B. Jordan? Because I noticed something. As a, fanatic of the man himself, in a lot of his films, he's very good at acting, and he can get these big emotional reactions from both his characters and the audience easily. But in this movie, he was very subdued. Like he was very calm, and it was representing the man himself, the real life lawyer, very very well. But what do you guys think of that? Do you think that by him being a little bit more calm and reserved in his acting, he let Jamie Foxx's characters and the prisoners' characters really shine within the story?
That's a good question because the major scene that I think of when I think of his acting is the strip search scene,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
because
absolutely.
that was very, uncomfortable to watch, but it was mostly uncomfortable, because of how he portrayed it, with his facial expressions, with his body, and I feel like the way that he played Brian is, kind of playing into how black men were expected and needed to act in the South. Like, you really couldn't be, as angry and as, like, outwardly against the system as you maybe wanted to be. Like, you see that with Johnny D's son getting, like, arrested because he was simply trying to hold, someone, like, accountable for, doing it, like, putting his dad back into jail. So, they
Mhm.
do a very good job of while having Brian's character be subdued, and I don't know if it's because he's a lawyer and this is how he's trained, but I really think that it's because, like, he's a black man and there are certain things that a black man couldn't do, and you can see, like, the consequences throughout the movie of a black man doing, like, those things, if that makes sense. Like, for
Yeah.
being, like, outwardly like, with outbursts and being, like, kind of just anti any like, anything that be conta that could be taken as anti-white or, anything that could be taken as simply, like, standing up for yourself would actually make you would actually have you be considered a threat, which is why you see a whole bunch of, throughout the film, a whole bunch of black men getting arrested for little to nothing.
Mhm. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan's. I think his facial expression. It's a lot of show don't tell in his acting. Because I mean, like the dialogue and the writing is incredible, but I think Casey's right. Where the most emotion comes through from his face and the way he kind of shows that like all that anger kind of being pushed below the surface, and that like you see that restraint. I think.
Mhm.
Um.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
His
was
his
something that I really
beautiful
liked.
cheekbones are just so expressive. His perfectly coiffed eyebrows, just amazing.
Beautiful.
Uh, no, but you're right. I think that Michael B. Jordan's strength is within the facial expressions and that tiny little bit of subtle detail. He knows how to play humans, like very human characters, super well. Like I think, and hold on, I know that sounds weird. There's a
But
point
it's
to it.
just a little funny.
If you watch Fantastic Four,
I
uh,
knew it.
or
Oh,
I
Fan Four
knew it.
Stick, as some people like to
wait
call
a
it,
minute.
he plays Johnny Storm, and really, sort of a boring character. I'll be real. Could be the writing,
Sort of a boring movie.
sort of boring movie,
True.
and everything in that, meh, you know. But within that movie, I don't think that it's really the right role for Michael B. Jordan. He just can express human emotions super well, and the reason why everyone loves Killmonger is because he was able to tap to that core of Killmonger's motivations and share that in a emotive and expressive way. Whereas other Marvel villains are just, "Ooh, I'm big bad guy. I'm comic book villain," you know.
Yeah, the big
"Grr."
gray CGI monster
Right.
So
plague.
so he was really the perfect casting for this movie because you get to see all of the little uh, sort of under the surface and also obvious racism come at him, and he also has to react in an under the surface way as to not, possibly even get killed down there. I mean, the South was crazy back then. But one of the scenes that I think best exemplifies that is the courtroom scene at the near the end of the movie when all of the black people who are going to watch the trial are told to wait outside for the obvious reason of racism. And then he comes in and he's like, "What the heck's going on?" And then the guard's like, "I'm just doing what I'm told." And then he's like about to do something and then he calms himself and is like, "Okay, everyone get in. We'll keep going forward." And although it's like in reality that's a very calm way to take it, you get the emotion of that super well. And it feels like a big moment, like he's almost fighting this guy, but it's just more casual and calm than that. And I think that acting is within the entirety of the movie, and it's amazing.
Yeah, Hallie, I know you said you took notes on this movie. Do you have anything to any insights to bring on Michael B. Jordan's performance?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I mean, I think he was perfect for the role in the sense of kind of being calmer than the other prisoners because he just has like this kid-like, aura to him. Like compared to all the other characters, he seems just like this kid, and that's what he's supposed to be, this kid who's trying to come in and make some change in any way he can. So I thought, yeah, he fit perfectly. I mean, other than that, in my notes, I mean, I would love to talk about did you guys notice the cop? The cop that we followed throughout the whole
Yeah.
Yeah.
story? I
I was
love
gonna say,
that.
yeah, speaking of that, the strip search scene, that cop
Yes.
had a great little background arc.
Yeah, a great example of how this movie doesn't just follow one character and one story. It has multiple things it's trying to prove and not being black and white. It's like, yes, there's this and that, but there's change happening within all of this, and there's space and room for potential for good change. And so
Yeah.
I loved the cop. I yes. I
Yeah,
would love to hear your guys' opinion.
I was a big fan of that. I think it's especially telling in how they didn't need to take too much time away from their main characters to give that cop his own arc. They were kind of able to
Yeah.
just do that through his little background interactions. Um, and I think, yeah, that was a really, really nice way of doing that. And a good way to sort of show the message, I think, is that like compassion kind of begets more compassion. Is I think one of the main messages of the movie, right? Is like if you give people a chance um to live their lives and show them just a little bit of kindness, these people who have kind of been, incarcerated, um it goes a long way, and it spreads more compassion in its wake. And I think the cop was a really good example of that.
100%. I was just waiting for the moment where Michael B. Jordan in his emotional lawyer speech would go, "This man deserves mercy. Just
Yeah,
mercy." And
I
then
was
that would be the end.
really waiting for the just
I
mercy
was
name drop.
disappointed.
In the
Like,
last line though,
oh,
he was like, "We need justice and we need mercy." And I was like, what do we call that? Just I was waiting
Mercy.
for it.
I was so like, come on. That's what I was waiting for. That's what you like. That's the only thing lawyer movies really are incredible for is that final speech with like the punchline at the end that's supposed to make you go like, "Oh, it's all worth it."
And that reminds me, there are so many scenes in this movie. Like, I love how this movie is like a love letter to To Kill a Mockingbird. And I know it's kind of hard because it's like real life, but um, like what I mean, like Atticus Finch's closing speech in the court case uh is like one of the most famous movie speeches of all time. It's my favorite like monologue ever. Um, and I think Michael B. Jordan's like opening remarks in the case with Macmillan, I think it was the second case with Macmillan, is like rivaling that. It's such a love letter to Brian Stevenson. Is such the way they portrayed him is such a love letter to Atticus Finch in my eyes. And I think it's fun. I think the movie kind of uses this like it takes this To Kill a Mockingbird thing uh
Ironically, right? Yeah.
almost a little ironically, because yeah, exactly, because the whole town is like, make sure you go check out the To Kill a Mockingbird museum. It's a huge landmark in civil rights, and meanwhile, these same people are turning around and perpetuating the exact same thing that the book is against.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit tongue in cheek, kind of showing how hypocritical the town is. Um, but I love To Kill a Mockingbird, and like the courthouse scene where the black people are forced to stand in the back. Is exactly the same as in To Kill a Mockingbird when um why am I forgetting his name? Um
Atticus?
no, the guy who was convicted.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh, something Robinson.
Guy with
Ah,
broken hand.
Guy with
yeah.
broken
What's the
hand.
girl was Mayella.
How do you remember these things?
Not the Jodes, that's Grapes of Wrath. Guy.
We're
All
just
right,
gonna
hold
go
on.
through every 30s. I don't even know when To Kill a Mockingbird takes place. Is it 60s, 30s? I don't even know.
Uh I like the fit, I don't know.
It's timeless.
Tom Robinson. Tom Robinson.
Tom
Tom
Robinson.
Robinson's family is forced to stand in the upper deck of the courthouse. They're not allowed to sit. The same as in Just Mercy. This movie is just To Kill a Mockingbird, and I love every bit of that. I'm a huge fan.
Mhm.
I love it. I geek over it.
Well, it's because the fact that they keep mentioning To Kill a Mockingbird as their greatest racial justice ever just goes to show the fictional nature of equality within the South. I mean, if their biggest civil rights monument is a book, it's like, come on, really?
Yeah, for
And
yeah.
and they all internalize that. They're all like, "Oh, well, we're the home of Harper E. Lee, so therefore, we're just and we understand and we've learned the lessons from this book." And they're taking that for granted, and they don't understand the the real world of this whole thing. They're being hypocritical, as you said, and it was just so cool to see that book mentioned over and over and over again because it's really interesting when life imitates art and not the other way around.
Hey, did you say Harper E. Lee, like Robert E. Lee, but
Oh, sorry.
crossed with the person who
No,
wrote To Kill a
I do
Mockingbird?
that for George R.R. Martin and J.R. Tolkien. I say J.R.R. Tolkien, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" Harper
Isn't it
E. Lee.
Is it not? It is J.R.R. Tolkien.
Is
No,
it or is it George? I don't
George
know.
R. Martin, J.R.R. Tolkien.
No, there's no way it's George R. Martin. That's so weird. I'm
I don't
looking it up
know.
now. Here, you guys talk while I fact check.
I know. I had to fact check the Harper E. Lee thing just so I didn't sound stupid when I tried to call you out on it. I
Well,
can't.
they both have double R's. Oh my god, my life is changing.
What do
as
they
we
stand for?
speak.
Well, that's the real question. What does
Okay,
it stand
okay, sure. Okay, who do we want to go for first? George R.R. or
for? Tolkien.
J.R.R. Tolkien? What do the R's in Tolkien stand for? I hope everyone's having a good day.
I know this is the content you guys are
Uh,
watching for.
John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa. I didn't know
Ronald,
he was
what is the second R?
Ronald Reuel Reuel. I don't
Roll.
know.
I wish it was
Reuel.
Ronald Reagan Tolkien.
Ronald Reagan.
That would be so funny to me.
Uh, Back to the movie. Wonderful. Do you know who was my favorite actor in all of it?
Who?
Ice Cube's son. O'Shea Jackson Jr. appears in every movie as a minor role, and he's great in every single one of them. He's the prisoner who said that he was having tea with Queen Elizabeth
Oh,
as he was in the bunk. I love him. He's so great. We should watch Straight Outta Compton because he's amazing in that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
let's do it. Yeah, man. He was Ray, right?
I never remember names, James. You never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked him a lot. I wish we got to see more of him in the movie.
I know when they just gave him the epilogue, I was like, come on.
I know. I loved that relationship though between
Oh,
Macmillan, Herb, and Ray. They were like such a great little dynamic trio.
I- gosh, that scene where they're all banging on the bars, like trying to show their support
And
for.
that's another parallel. Is the first they're banging on the bars for Herb, and then later they're banging on the bars when Macmillan is walking free. I love the camaraderie. I love it.
Just so great.
Yeah.
What a movie.
Yeah.
What an
This
absolute movie.
this movie is like it's a blend of To Kill a Mockingbird with a dash of Shawshank Redemption served on a plate of Dark Waters. This movie reminded me so much of
Yeah.
Dark Waters, Charlie.
Yeah, no, totally.
Like
And also, read the book, everyone. This is based on a book.
which is based on real life.
My God.
Dang.
Layers. The wall being broken.
I know.
But yeah,
The
this is
fourth
super
wall.
Dark Waters. I think that the lawyer genre of cool lawyers fighting against injustice is perhaps one of my favorites, and you've really turned me on to it, James.
Yeah, man. Like My Cousin Vinny, you know?
I've never
Slaps.
seen. This movie was infinitely better than this Matt Damon movie I watched. I forgot the name of it, but he was a lawyer trying to get like a corporation to pay up for not treating this person's cancer or something. And in that movie, Matt Damon literally murders a guy halfway through to it as a lawyer. Like,
What?
yeah,
What movie is this?
I don't know. I forgot the name, but like, look it up. Matt Damon fighting for this guy who had like bone or blood cancer or something against this big corporation, falls in love, murders a guy in the middle. Honestly, I think this movie does a better job at portraying real lawyers.
The Rainmaker. The Rainmaker?
The Rainmaker. You just looked that up. What a man.
Yeah, I'm our IT guy now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Insane movie. Matt Damon, worse than Michael B. Jordan as a lawyer. I'll say it right now. Don't at me.
How does Mark Ruffalo stack up? Because Dark Waters was really good. This movie, I think Dark Waters was kind of underrated, but I too am in love with the cool lawyer legal movie genre now.
Kasey, Haleigh, have you guys had experiences with the cool lawyer legal movie genre?
Not really.
either. No.
You should check Dark Waters then. It's
Yeah.
like it feels like it's 6 hours long, but it's
Oh, I also wanted to talk about how all the scenes seem so real. Like it's so easy, and I think in like law movies or movies with big action to make everything, like shots of like the jail and shots of inside places very, artificial, superficial. But I felt like every scene I was there. Like every scene I like felt the weight of the environment on top of me. Um
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's what I wrote down, like and also how the scenes were so well-rounded, like, you start like, one of my favorite examples, I think, is the scene with the mom, is, like, the frame stays in that wide shot of the mom sweeping, like, everything is all-encompassing, and that's what I think is, really cool. I mean, everything feels like it's not all over the place. I'm, like, geeking over the scenes because I just thought every single one was so cool. You really feel like the warmth of Alabama, of the community. Yeah, I just, like, felt like I was there. I felt like I was, like, transported sitting next to Michael B. Jordan in the car or sitting in the living room, like, the environment, I felt like the weight of it constantly, and I thought that was really, really cool. Yeah.
Haleigh, you're entirely right. I think that the South it's slowly becoming actually one of my favorite settings for movies because this movie did a great job at it. The book Dead Man Walking did a great job at it. I've been playing a game called Hunt Showdown that does a great job at it. And guess what's coming that I'm super excited for? Lovecraft Country, Jordan Peele, J.J. Abrams, happening in the South, and it's going to be great. And it's just such a good environment. And I totally agree with you. I think in this movie they really portrayed the town and the people within it in a way that made you feel the weight of all of the opinions and all of the people as you were watching it.
I
Makes it
like
like
the use of coloring and how they used that to show the passage of time. I think this movie did a really good job at showing like how and this is kind of a mainstay with Dark Waters as well. It's like these court cases, these legal proceedings take a really long time, like years and years and years. And I really liked kind of the another little parallelism thing where they'll show when they first move into the office for the Equal Justice Initiative, their clerk is using like a typewriter. And then later you get like way later in the movie, you get sort of the same shot, but now she's on a computer. And it's like, oh, we're in like the 90s now. Um, and I just think it's the little details like that show a really effective way to show how time is passing. Also, the coloring, and what I mean by that is like when we're still in like the late 70s and the 80s and stuff, everything kind of has a warmer tone to it. It's kind of like in the South, it's all yellowy and orangey. Everything's kind of tinted that way. But then when we're up in the more modern times and he's in like the state supreme court or something, everything's kind of like got a cooler tone over it. It's kind of washed out white, like modern. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really interesting to look at how coloring is used in films because I think coloring is one of the parts of filmmaking that's like overlooked the most. I definitely overlook it when I'm editing stuff because it's hard, but it can be really, I think, just like a nice little finishing touch on top of stuff to
Mhm.
make it look even more polished and consistent. And Dark Waters did a really good job at that too, like everything else. So that's my little spiel on coloration.
And Little Women. Just want to pop that in there.
Oh, and Little Women did that too. You're right. Very good
Mhm.
coloring work.
Yes.
One of my other favorite parts with the acting was it's always the same actors, and I love it. In every movie that takes place in the South, oh my God, you guys just reminded me. We need to watch Logan Lucky. Different
What? I don't,
time, different thing.
What is Logan Lucky?
You want me
You
to
don't know
explain?
Logan Lucky?
You know Logan Lucky, Casey?
Yeah, Adam
Yeah.
Driver.
Yes.
Of
Wait, I
course.
do know that movie. I do know that movie.
Bro, so good. It just reminded me of it. But in every single movie that happens in the South, I swear to God, they get the same white actors to play it every time because they just look like they came out of like the most impoverished, like 30 miles away from any city town ever. It's so funny. Like the
Give us
guy who
some
played
examples.
the guy who played the DA, he's in a whole bunch of movies and he always plays like some racist southerner or something. He's being typecast as that. I'm sure he's a lovely man.
I know.
Uh
I'm gonna say, gosh, that's gotta be tough to like deal with,
no, like
unless you're actually racist. Like, that's gotta be hard.
True.
I
There's
was
like a
pl-
thread where it's like some of these actors play racist a bit too well, and it's like,
I know. It's
dang.
like it's a little suspicious. There's like, is
it's
method act if you're playing a racist character, it's like the one time method acting isn't okay.
Right.
oh
It's like so you can play the Joker and you can be like send pig heads to your castmates, but I don't know. I don't know
That's why
where I'm
Daniel
going with that.
Day-Lewis had to play Abraham Lincoln and not anyone else in that movie.
Yeah, I'd
Right.
love to method act Abraham Lincoln. The guy, if I'm gonna method act someone, I want it to be someone cool, like Teddy Roosevelt.
Of
You
course, you would say Teddy
He's
Roosevelt.
my he's the I think one of the coolest presidents. Like national parks, Bull Moose Party.
Teddy
Mhm.
Roosevelt's interesting because he was like a mega racist, but he also did some really cool stuff if you disregard the mega racism.
Right.
Isn't that like most of this is what frustrates me about American history. Is I feel like I learned something cool or about a cool figure and it's like, wow, what a great role model. I think this is a cool historical figure.
And then they're
And it's like,
racist.
oh, and they were like pro
Oh my
slavery
god.
or
It's
something.
like
It's like
it's like FDR. Like, oh, what a
gamble you have
cool
to take.
guy. He did New Deal. Oh, he took us through World War II. Oh, he also brought the Klan back. Yikes.
Right?
Yeah, dude,
Birth of a
it's
nation.
I
Literally.
know everyone's always like talking about how Trump is the most racist president, but it's like, bro, like Andrew Jackson, the Trail of Tears. Are you kidding? It's like there's so
True.
Yeah, it's a high bar racism in America as a
my
president. So,
gosh, we just dude.
or a low bar.
I
I don't
hate
know.
Yeah,
that's why
it's
I have a
just
love hate
a
relation.
general bar
Yeah.
that
Speaking
it's a
of
stare.
bar,
Yeah, that is the test the lawyers have to take is the bar.
Yes.
yeah, that's
Speaking of,
oh,
I have
ooh,
notes on I just wanted to, like, touch on how they portrayed the system of, like, the justice system.
Mhm.
mhm,
And I thought they did it very, truthfully. I put it in my notes that they include that the system is truly classist and racist. That the system was full of coercion of testimonies. It's
mhm,
actually like kind of insane. Like if you look it up, how many testimonies have been coerced. Like even if you look at have any of you watched When They See Us?
No, what is
no,
that?
It's on Netflix. It circles around the Central Park 5, which were essentially 5 black boys that went to prison for I believe it was the rape and murder of a white woman, but of course they none of them were um there. Well, they weren't it wasn't that they weren't there at the time, they were in Central Park, but they obviously, like, didn't commit the
yeah,
crime, but the whole part of why they, went to jail is because the police officers that detained them basically like forced them through physical abuse and all sorts of like gaslighting to basically like force them to confess to something that they didn't do, but the damage was already like really like done by then, because like coercion of testimonies is so insane, because you wouldn't think that um someone would be able to force you to like, admit to something that you didn't do, but as we see with, what's his Myers, that, like, they
yeah.
went the extra mile to get this man to, like, admit something that didn't happen. So it was a very good callback to, something that is very much, like, alive and very much, like, present today.
Like he was a criminal, yeah, but like there was a lot more at work there than what it first appeared to be, right? Because in the beginning of the movie, it looks like it's going to be a classic case of like, okay, McMillan was definitely set up by this irredeemable, just like awful white dude. But then it's like, oh no, this goes a lot deeper than just individuals. Like it's a whole system that's messed up, and this guy was just like a pawn of it. You know, he just got used.
Right.
Um, I think it was did a really good job at that. And like you were saying with the system, I think the movie also did a good job at showing like just how many hoops you have to jump through in the legal system. Like all this motioning for appeal, like the whole case that they're building up for like the majority of the movie is a case to win the option to have another trial. Like it's not even to clear his name. It's to open up the possibility of opening a new argument to clear his name. Like it's so there are so many steps you have to go through for everything, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and I think
Mhm.
that's something that most legal movies kind of don't deal a ton with because it's like that's not really the interesting part, you know? Um, no one wants to see guys like motioning claims for appeals and filing paperwork and stuff. But it's like that's what being a lawyer is. It's not all Atticus Finching. It's a lot of kind of
Right.
trying to slog your way through a really tedious and messed up system. Whoa, tedious and messed up system.
Mhm. And what a crappy job these corrupt officers do at being corrupt. Like, they're
Literally.
bad at
Yeah.
it.
Like,
Like,
why would you leave all these records available if you're trying to cover
they
something up?
have the guy saying, "Well, I didn't see that guy kill him. I would never do that. I'm an upstanding individual." They kept that. If you're corrupt, why would you keep that? Like, how are you so bad at being bad? I
Yeah,
don't understand. When I saw that scene in the movie, I was literally like, "This can't be real. That can't be what happened. You're joking, right?" Like, that's just the perfect little voice clip to end this entire trial. Like, he's saying he was lying right at the front of it.
yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use that clip in the trial scenes also. Like
It's like, what?
I feel like there's so much crazy evidence they got that they just didn't wind up using in the case. Like that and the stuff with Darnell. It's like
Oh,
they just did it's
yeah.
like so
Yeah,
y'all just
wait,
ain't
what
gonna use
happened
it's
with
like so
him?
you just ain't gonna use this like this was a whole plot point moving it forward. It's like we have this key evidence and then we get to the case and it's like let's not use any of it.
Yeah. What happened to answer your question, Charlie, that after Darnell got arrested, he refused to testify.
Oh, but they couldn't use his
Yes.
Um,
statement because he already signed it.
Right. I mean, I believe that they did use his
Okay.
statement, but it was a very like, I got arrested. I don't even know if I have a job. Like, I'm not working with
Yeah.
you anymore. And that's why they
mm,
went and saw Myers and tried to get what they could out of Myers.
Okay,
fair
I
enough.
get it. I
Fair enough.
see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, poor Darnell.
I
Like,
know.
come
I
on.
know, right?
He was such a sweetie. And they just
Yes.
and they're like, perjury. It's like, no.
Another parallel to Kill a Mockingbird. They just keep coming. The scene of Brian visiting Macmillan's family is like exactly the same as when Atticus visits Tom Robinson's family. These are
Mhm.
this it's so it just gets better and better, baby. I cannot get over how much I like these two movies because
You
they're
you
kind of
just
the same
want
movie.
every movie to be To Kill a Mockingbird, and it would be great.
If your favorite fictional character isn't Atticus Finch, like what are you doing? Like wake up, people.
Fair
He's
point.
literally unless you read the much disputed sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, what's it called? Go Set a Watchman, where
Yeah.
Yeah.
they basically it's like, well, he was racist anyway. That's what I thought. It's like with American history. I can't even like Atticus Finch because apparently in the sequel that like never came out, he was actually still racist. It's like just let me. I do not. I pretend I do not see Go Set a Watchman. I do not
I
see it.
do
It
not
is. It
see.
is. It's
Well,
like Avatar and Legend of Korra. I do not see Legend
hey,
of Korra.
hey,
Whoa, whoa,
I
whoa,
do
whoa,
not see
whoa.
bite
Korra.
your tongue, young man.
Slow
Bite
your
your tongue.
roll.
Nope, I'm not gonna take it back. I do
Oh
not
my
see it.
god. All right, that's it. We're watching
Wow.
Avatar: Legend of Korra next.
And
Yeah.
on that note, we are starting to get a little bit short on time,
All right.
ladies
Alrighty.
and gents. Ladies
Thank
and
you.
gent.
Thank you. Thank you.
And gent.
So, as if this were a court case, do we have any closing remarks?
Oh, snap.
I
Uh
don't.
He did that.
He
You
good
did
did
that.
movie.
that.
Watch it. I highly recommend donating to the Equal Justice Initiative.
Yeah.
Because I think that as a film group, it's really interesting when we promote uh GoFundMe's and organizations that are related to the films we watch. So I personally recommend Equal Justice Initiative and the Black TV and Film Collective out of all the things that you can donate to. Please do it. It's a good cause. Your money is certainly going to a good place. But yeah, watch this movie. It's free. You have no reason not to. It's
Yes. Yeah.
wonderful.
We probably should announce that. It's free on Amazon Prime and YouTube for the entire month of June. So absolutely go watch it. It's well worth your $0 that you're spending on it.
Right.
Well worth the
Like, there's
price
no
of free.
reason not to watch it at this point. I think everyone has something to learn from this movie for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, please consider donating to any of the organizations we plugged: Equal Justice Initiative, Black TV and Film Collective.
Thank you.
Rebuild the Block is one that I really like. Also, the George Floyd Memorial Fund, the I Run with Ahmaud Fund, the Justice for Breonna Taylor Fund. I don't know if that one
Mhm.
actually has fun at the end, but um, yeah, just do what you can. You know, this is something that we all have to take part in. Just like Brian Stevenson.
Yeah, be
We
Brian.
we can be like Brian. What would Brian do? Is something we all have to remember during these times.
Yeah, screw what would baby Jesus do. It's what would Brian do.
Wait, baby?
Yeah, you haven't heard that phrase?
I thought it was just what would Jesus do?
No, it's what
Yeah.
would baby Jesus do.
But baby Jesus did okay.
He
Hey,
cried.
Jesus was holy his entire life. Or
No,
I don't
I
want to hear
You're the
know.
one person here, Charlie, who has not like been Christian at some point in their lives.
I went to a Christian primary school, so don't at me, James.
That's funny. That's funny to me. All right.
What?
Well, we're running out of time here. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure podcasting with you. Make sure you like the episode and share it with your pals. Share the show. Comment, thumbs up, rate on iTunes. And yeah, I'm really tired. That's all I got for that part. Sorry. That was a little bit of a
It was
letdown.
beautiful. It was beautiful. So
Uh,
perfect.
yeah, but with that, we I think have been Socratic
Very
Cinema.
cinema.
Thanks for listening.
Oh.
Adios.
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 I ruined it. Okay.